Hi, I'm Gerald Crittle. I live in Churchtown, and as a hobby, I paint abstracts. I do have a day job for part-time during the week, looking after a construction training group, which is a membership organisation. So that keeps me busy part of the week, and then I work on my abstracts. I'm just going to remove that screen out of the way. So I think about half the room have seen my art. It is sort of a bit like, abstract art's a bit like Marmite in a way, that some people are really interested in it and others aren't quite sure what it is. And it has some really interesting conversations at exhibitions where one person might like it and the other one just hasn't got a clue what they want to make some sort of sense of it. So anyway, I started painting probably about 15 years ago. And it was just occasionally I'd have a little dabble, and I tried to do some landscapes, and they didn't come out very well. It just didn't look right. So then I tried a bit more of an abstract feel, and a lot of it was a bit sort of Jackson Pollock-ish. I would, throw paint at it, dribble, and really make a mess. But what was interesting was people seemed to quite like it, and I would have it displayed around the house. So family and friends came round because, oh, look at my latest art. And I don't know if they were being kind, but they were quite interested in taking it away for free. So I started off, giving my art away, which a lot of people do. But with art, you can't keep just making it and then fill your house with it. You have to do something with it. So the next thing seemed sensible to sell it. So that's the bit of a journey I'm going to tell you about and some of the things I've learned. But those of you that aren't familiar with my art, I thought I would have some I made earlier. I hope you can see the texture on this board. And that's made with a builder's plaster. And I use all sorts of different building materials, probably my construction background, but they work well and they're probably a bit cheaper than some art materials. And I create a background for my paintings using this texture. And really it's play. So we have some sort of back scratcher type implement. Whereas I expect the fitness people might tell us what it actually does. I don't know. We have something for spreading grout for tiles, and that makes lovely patterns. A kid's toy for making lines in sand. Pastry cutters, dog grooming thingy, but all those things I use to create the texture, and then I paint on top. And the painting on top, I try not to sort of use the background underneath as the guide to paint. So it's not like painting my numbers and thinking, well, that circle will be that color. What I do is I put the paint on the board and then spread it with a plastic piece of material or some sort of foam. Or I tend not to use brushes occasionally. And these are some of my latest paintings I've just finished, which will be exhibited at Cheltenham Open Studios, which starts on Friday. So this gives you an idea of the sorts of thing. So it's big and bold, and quite often has a planet in it. And just to show, I do some landscape. This one, and you can hopefully see there's loads and loads of texture on it and loads of colours. And I just tried hard not to follow the texture underneath when I put the paint on the top. And by mixed media, I'll move it. By mixed media, there's inks, acrylics, enamels. You sort of name it, floor paint, you name it, I'll find it and use it. And I'm looking for happy accidents where the paint fights with itself. And I have a task for you. I just finished this painting, which is slightly smaller than normal. Again, it's highly textured and it's got sort of gold and bronzy colours in it. And I'd like a name for it. So if anybody wants to put a name in chat of what you think I should call this painting, then please do. Something polite. So that's sort of some of my more recent art. But then I started painting old floorboards. So bear with me. So I go to reclamation yards and look for old battered boards like this one. You can see it's been eaten, and but they've got it's a lovely surface, a lovely texture. and from that you can create some really interesting pieces of art. And this is what's probably quite interesting, because I'm painting for me. I like going to find the board. I like cleaning them up. I like painting them, and I like seeing the final results. So here's one I made earlier, and again, hopefully you can see the perhaps not, but you can see that all those lines and textures show up in the paint, and these have been really popular. I did it just to try it. I put one on sale, and then people have taken them off, and sometimes I get pictures back to say put them up horizontally and move them. And what's really quite interesting with the boards is that I get more feedback after somebody's bought it than perhaps I do with the painting. People will send me a picture saying it's now in place, really pleased with it. So what I thought was a bit of an odd idea, painting a floorboard, has turned out to be really quite beneficial for me. So anyway, that's what I'm doing now, but just sort of go back in time a bit. When I first started, I thought, well, I can't keep giving it away. Well, I can keep giving it away, but it'd be nice to have some income back in, so I can buy more art materials, and I can do more. So I started off with a little craft fair. Belinda might not remember, but I think it was a Cheltenham Connect fair, Christmas fair in the old building at the end of Bath Road. And I took my art around, and in the corner, I did sell one piece, but that was to one of the organisers, who I think took pity on me. But I also sold it to a little craft fair in the brewery, and then I moved on to things like Art in the Park. And anybody who's new to painting, I really recommend Art in the Park, because it's quite cost effective to take part. It's on, you're there for a whole week. You get to get feedback. And when I took part, I was really pleased that people started to be interested in my work and actually buy it. And then obviously I moved on to things like the Gardens Gallery and the 16 Gallery and other places. But what's also important for me about the art is that it's not just about the selling, but it's that interaction with people when they talk about your art. And I've met some really interesting people. I've had lots of great conversations, and it's a real buzz when somebody sends you a picture of your art in their living room, dining room. I've got it in kitchens, bathrooms, you name it. I think conservatories, every room of the house. People have put the art in, and there's a real buzz from that. And somebody sent me a video of somebody opening a piece of art as a present, and that was really quite, it was just quite nice to receive. So for me, it's not just about making the money, but the money does become important, because exhibiting is become more expensive. Art materials are more expensive. People think these wooden boards come up a skit, but I actually have to go and buy them, and then oak boards aren't cheap, even though they're tutty. So that sort of leads me on to some of the lessons that I've learnt. And to start with, my idea was, let's keep the costs down. So it was frames from charity shops, sale frames, and they'd be all different sizes and colours, and they served a purpose, but they didn't add to the presentation. So when you exhibit, it all looked a bit of a dog's dinner of different things and different sizes. So I've now taken the view that most of my bigger paintings are in black. I've just for some little small paintings for Cheltenham Studios, I've invested in some purpley coloured ones and some bright, one on the floor here, sorry, a bright red one, and that's made with a filter holder. There we go. Is that what I've got left? So that's the sort of thing that I was doing. A couple of other things. Pricing is a nightmare, Beverly. We have lots of discussions about pricing. I'd like to charge more, but at the end of the day, I want to sell. So it's getting that balance right between me making enough money to cover my hobby, the buyer getting value for what they want, but not having to exhibit the same piece 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times before you sell it for a higher value. So is it better for me to sell it, 220 reasonably quickly, or sell it 320, but it takes a lot longer? If it was a business, I might go for the higher price and take longer, but this is not as a hobby. So pricing was an issue. Social media is quite difficult with the resin paintings to promote it. That's quite important to have that place on there. And now it's about getting out to exhibit. And if I could just have a couple more minutes, or another minute, that tomorrow sees the opening of Cheltenham Open Studios. Well, it opens on Saturday, but the Lansdowne Art Studios, where my studio is, opens tomorrow at 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock, 10% off over the weekend. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in art, not just to go along to Lansdowne, but to any of the venues there. There's hundreds of venues in Cheltenham. There's art of every description, every price, and it really is well worth tripping. A bit like going to the Science Festival. You could pop out during the day and just see some different art. I'm also at Blacksmith Gallery with Beverly. Thank you, Beverly, for the promotion. And I've got exhibitions coming up at the Gardens Gallery in Cheltenham and at Lower Slaughter, which will be on social media and be advertised. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into somebody who paints as a hobby but wants to sell their work. Please come along to Lansdowne, have a look and see it for real. And if you've got any ideas of what to call my painting, otherwise it would be called Amazing. And that's great. So thank you very much. Sorry I overran.